To quote 12 Monkeys, if there is one thing that I've learned, it's that nothing frees you to be crazy like learning that you're not. Many people have accused me of being crazy. People I meet, some of my viewers, and even the nurses here on the psychiatric ward. But none of them understand what fucking genuine shit-eating, gibbering fucking insanity is truly like. So I'm going to read you out an example right now so that you can stare into the fucking maw of madness and see what stares back at you. In patch 1.7, NPCs with the rotten to the core modifier will have heads full of toxic pus. When you shoot them in the head, their heads will explode, and anyone within the splash radius will take bleed damage. What in fuck's name does that even fucking mean? Well, it's time to buckle up your straitjacket and come with me on a magical journey through the increasingly mystical world of the Division. Today we have global events in 1.7, a bit of theory crafting about the Division, a quick update about Scruffy, the diabetic show-stealing feline. But first, let's put in some earplugs, strap on some welding goggles and self-inflict the technologically challenged state of the game. The lag, freezes, poor video quality and massive audio level randomness is not my responsibility, by the way. However, the stitch-up job I've done with the editing, well, that's definitely all me.
Welcome everyone to the state of the game. We had a few fixes deployed this morning. That's enough. Tom, Mark, you there?
Hey.
Tom and Mark, you are both senior game designers at Reflections.
Ooh, I've been at Reflections 5.5 years now.
Yeah, we both just celebrated our 5-year anniversary together.
Oh, that's cute. Global events are one of the features coming in 1.7.
Give players a way to experience the existing content, but in a different manner. So our current plan is to do a global event every month. That will run for an entire week. So whenever you do any activity, you'll get rewarded global event tokens. You can then exchange those for caches.
You're yelling. We did say that there would be new vanity stuff.
I'm sure it'll be awesome.
We have a new area in the terminal.
Leaderboards are designed to be as inclusive as possible.
Don't go anywhere. I'm determined to get through this.
In addition to the whole world being modified and updated, those package missions allow us to allow the player to put in a different modifier.
Okay.
So they can choose an additional modifier to the one that's already affecting the world, which will embellish that and also then add a little challenge layer, and that will allow them to earn tokens faster.
So just to confirm, you were playing the Rotten to Core modifier, right?
Yes, rotten to the core.
Basically, when you get a headshot, headshot damage is increased for a short period of time after that, and the headshot will erupt and apply bleed to all NPCs around it.
The global modifier is always a positive effect for the player. So the positive one is like squeezing a spot, right? You shoot them in the head explodes, they get covered in bleed, like squeezing a spot. Like squeezing a spot. Like squeezing a spot. And then when you put the additional modifier on, it adds that challenge element to it. The whole goal was to give players a better feeling of power, right?
You want to talk about Danger Zone?
Danger Zone, basically, as soon as you get close to an enemy, we're going to increase your damage. If you're too far away from the player, too far away from an NPC, we'll increase their damage to you.
But when I played this modifier, this has, challenged me to play in a different way.
If you move, you do more damage, but if you're stationary, you start taking damage. But then we tie that into the group moving around, so if you move with your buddy, you do more damage and you take less damage. And we've got kind of crazy ideas too, like cool explosions, cool special effects.
Yeah. What?
But what happens now is that the enemies themselves are poisonous. If you get too close to an enemy, they start doing a damage over time effect to you. Really elevates that panic level. Will you guys be pumped to play these?
This is meant to be fun.
And they are cool guys. We're still friends, right?
We're still friends, because talking about stuff is awesome. One day Yannick will return. All right, I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.
Well, Mike's not going to get any argument from me when he says, we've got some crazy ideas. Damn fucking straight you have. You are the fucking king of crazy ideas. Despite the eye-popping audio blasts, repeated disconnects, lag freezes, and the all-round surreal nature of the content, there was at least some factual information on show today, which was, frankly, a refreshing change. There was something about how the guys from Reflections looked that started to weird me out though. After staring at the screen for ages, I finally fucking realised what it was. Tom looks exactly like someone genetically spliced Simon Pegg and Nick Frost into one human being. Seriously, look hard enough and you can see it. How cool is that? Mike's appearance looked perfectly normal to me, but then again I've seen pictures of Lord Voldemort before. So let's break down patch 1.7 into bite-sized pieces of dog shit and get chewing. This was not a reveal, just info of some 1.7 content. There will still be no way to custom rename your loadouts, for fuck's sake. I guess that 14-year-old Croatian is a better programmer than anyone at Ubisoft after all. Global events are PvE specials occurring once a month, lasting a week. Participation means tokens, tokens means caches, and caches invariably means RNG will fuck you in the eye socket just because it can. You can keep adding modifiers on top. More fuckery equals more tokens. There will be a new terminal where there will also be leaderboards, which might work perhaps. There will be a public test server on all platforms, so fucking dear lord expect some even more rotten latency and rubber banding. Perhaps maybe time this with another free weekend so we can finally answer the question, at what temperature does a Division server completely melt? Most importantly, it will give players a way to experience the content, but in a different manner. This will be achieved by having random modifiers in the game, which will make things easier or harder, and introduce completely random elements to the game mechanics. Funny, this sounds exactly like patch 1.6.1, although at least now we get bonus loot as a reward for our suffering. There is no gear score increase in 1.7. Personally, with finite development resources, I would prefer to have new gear items and gear sets rather than the old shit just ramped up to item level 300 or whatever the fuck it would be. So I reckon for now, this is the right choice. So here are some examples of global events modifiers. Rotten to the core. Shoot an enemy in the head, and for reasons unknown to humankind, their head erupts like an exploding bag of pus. And you get a magical headshot bonus for a short while, as ordained by the Archdruid. As Voldemort says, the global modifier is positive. It's like squeezing a spot. No, literally. It's literally like squeezing a spot, apparently. He fucking said so. The global modifier is Mr. Pussyhead.
Like squeezing a spot.
Adding an additional Mr. Pussyhead modifier results in the effects spreading to you, making it harder and increasing your rewards, because according to the Division's schools of Magicka, getting pus on you now makes you bleed, because of that boss fight in Naxxramas. Danger Zone. Getting closer to enemies increases the damage you do to them, and if you're too far away, the damage you take is increased, because of too many Blizzard devs working for Ubisoft. Another example was, if you move, you do more damage, but if you are stationary, you start taking damage, because it's a shame to waste perfectly fucking good World of Warcraft dynamics, I guess. So what's my verdict on all this? Well, if 1.7 is based on pus mechanics, God help us in 1.8. Are they going to base that entire patch around anal fistulas or bacterial vaginosis? Joking aside, when I started hearing things like poison damage, proximity damage, take damage if you stay still, take damage based on your proximity to a teammate, and all that textbook World of Warcraft shite, I started laughing nervously, then started to sob a little, and then soiled my gaming chair. The core mechanics behind global events are solid. It's not paid DLC worthy stuff, but I reckon it's a good addition to the game. Basically, you'll be able to scale content to be more or less difficult, depending on your skill level. Shit, mal-coordinated players like me get to face plant into a legendary and have a vague chance of actually soloing it. Brilliant players get to add all manner of despicable fuck shittery to the encounters, making their already miserable lives even more miserable, and everyone gets free pies and limited edition cosmetic adult nappies for their trouble. It's not going to win any Nobel fucking prizes, but it's free, adds utility, flexibility, RNG loot, and nice looking party pants to the game. So now we've established that the back end of this content is solid, let's briefly touch on the ever so slightly problematic aspects of global events. The implementation is fucking retarded. The most sinister implication of global events is the complete abandonment of any attempt to ground the game in an internally consistent story world. There has been zero effort here to integrate the new game mechanics into the game itself. Global Events appears to just yell, fuck it, let's just shamelessly rip off World of Warcraft raid dynamics, superimpose them into the Division, shrug our shoulders and not give any fucks about the fact that it makes no fucking sense within the storyline of the Division. Perhaps it's because they don't have any writers involved. Perhaps it's because they hired too many ex-Blizzard staff. Perhaps it's just because the Archdruid ordained it. But there is no attempt to link the global events modifiers and damage to in-game dynamics or lore-consistent mechanics. This is basically like a fucking UFO landing in the middle of Romeo and cunting Juliet. The implementation is fucking horrific. This game has a rich and storied environment with many weapons, enemy types and damage mechanics. Are they seriously saying that the best close-range damage mechanism they could come up with was Mr. Pussyhead explosions? There are a myriad of ways you can introduce global events and story the content so it seamlessly meshes with the existing content. Whilst the core concept is sound, if it is implemented like this, it's like having Super Mario turn up in Skyrim or Duke Nukem rock up to the door in Life is Strange. Integrate this content properly and it will most likely be a massive success and add some well-needed flavour to the game. Implement it as suggested and you are going to mind-fuck the narrative by dropping Harry Potter nukes on the Division from fucking orbit. One does not simply rip out sections of World of Warcraft raid mechanics, dump them in the middle of the Division without explanation, and expect it to make fucking sense. I thought the premise of the game involved biological warfare, science, and technological weaponry. Introducing spell magics to the game is the fucking Rubicon, and I hope to God they decide not to cross it. They need to hire a fucking writer, sit him down with some developers and work out a way to integrate the back end of the content into the game so that it's internally consistent with the game world they have already created. If they can't manage that, at least give us all magical broomsticks so we can fly the fuck out of here. Put it this way, when they make the Division movie, how are they going to explain to Jake Gyllenhaal that enemy heads will explode with magical green pus and that he has to do the chicken dance close to his buddy or take frostbolt damage? Seriously, this is some immature shit. Fucking exploding pus heads? I frequently bang on about Harry Potter, immersion and the suspension of disbelief, and I can't put off this bit of theory crafting anymore. In order to express my concerns accurately about this, we're going to have to take a quick detour and explore the career of Terry Spear, creative director, level designer, dungeon master, and archdruid. I've used science, my research skills, and some investigative journalism to write this quick biography about Terry, which I hope will shed some light on how the game got to where it is now, and some of the critical choices that may lead the game to future glory or catastrophe. I've tried to be as accurate as possible based on publicly available information, but if anyone spots any factual errors at all, please point them out in the comments so I can issue a correction. So here it is, the biography of Terry Spear, game designer. Terry Spear was born Terence Harold Potter Spear on a small potato farm in Kansas. His cruel and unsympathetic druid stepmother made it very clear to him that when he grew up, he was expected to become a potato farmer too. However, from a very early age, Terry realised that he was destined for greater things. He wanted to make games for a living, and his stubborn refusal to accept his fate set him at odds with his family. At the age of 12, furious at his desire to leave the farm, his stepmother locked him in the barn, telling him that he couldn't come out until he agreed to become a potato farmer just like them. Terry refused to give in, and after a few days, started to rummage around the barn for some kind of light entertainment or electronic consumer devices, but without success. What he did find amongst the dust and the straw was a box full of Dungeons and Dragons paraphernalia, a wizard's cloak, a book on druid magic, an old scarecrow, a hobby horse, some ruby slippers, and some chickens. Surviving only on eggs and the rainwater that dripped through the roof, he passed the time playing Dungeons and Dragons with just the scarecrow and imaginary friends for company. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, and months turned into years. But he refused to give in. So in the barn he stayed, wrapped up in his wizard's cloak, playing Dungeons and Dragons with his imaginary friends and coming up with increasingly ingenious ways of disposing of his biological waste products. At the age of 18, he decided to escape, and realising the back door of the barn had been unlocked all this time anyways, what a donkey, he put on his ruby slippers, packed up his Dungeons and Dragons equipment, kissed his scarecrow goodbye, passionately, like really passionately, jumped on his hobby horse, tucked his book on druids down his trousers, with some difficulty, and headed off to the big city to become a game designer. Needless to say, on arriving at the big city, everyone told him to fuck off. As it turns out, most AAA game developers are reluctant to hire an 18-year-old riding a hobby horse, wearing a wizard's cloak and ruby slippers, and jabbering on about magic and spells. Go fucking figure. Everywhere rejected him and his ideas for games. Desperate and armed with his knowledge of magic, he decided to go to a crossroads and do a deal with the devil. Terry asked to become the best game designer in the whole world. The devil made it clear that this was too fucking hard, but making him the best game designer at Ubisoft would be piss easy, so he could crack that one off in 3 minutes. The devil proposed a deal. They would each roll a dice 3 times, and if Terry rolled the highest, he would get his wish. If the devil rolled highest, he would take Terry's soul. And his Dungeons and Dragons kit, because that retro gaming shit sells for a fucking absolute fortune on eBay. Terence Harold Potter Spear agreed. The devil rolled 3 6s in a row and looked at Terry with a sinister glare. Terry had to roll higher, but he asked if he could use his own dice. Perplexed, the devil said sure. Terry rummaged around in his Dungeons and Dragons set and pulled out his trusty 20-sided dice, and as the laws of fucking probability would suggest, rolled a higher total than 18. But the devil doesn't like to be beaten, so he granted Terry his wish, but it came with a catch. Knowing that hubris and pride is many a man's undoing, he gave Terry a talisman of deception and said, "Terry, your skills are great, but nobody wants to play Harry Potter bullshit games. As long as you keep wearing this talisman, it will disguise your identity as the king of the dungeon masters, and all of your excellent game designs will be magically disguised so that people can't see their true nature. But you must keep wearing the talisman." Terry put on the talisman of deception. His robe turned into a leather jacket, his hobby horse turned into a Harley Davidson, and he headed back to the city, where he got a job instantly working for Ubisoft. Terry now found that with the talisman of deception hanging around his neck, when he said magic wand, the words assault rifle came out. When he said he had an idea for a Dungeons and Dragons based role-playing card game, the words cover-based shooter came out. Terry sat down at his new desk, and when he started to draw a map of Middle-earth, in front of his eyes he watched himself, as if in a dream, draw a map of New York. The Division was born. But the devil is wise to the ways of men, and knew that sooner or later Terry would not be able to settle with the successes he had earned. Sooner or later, hubris and pride would be his undoing. And sure enough, one day, Terry started to question why he should hide his true nature as Archdruid, king of the dungeon masters, and purveyor of fine magics. And late at night, he started sneaking into the office, taking off the talisman and creating content for the Division. Suddenly, the magical spell rotation weapons of the twin fucking Valkyries seem to make sense, even though they are obviously very, very stupid indeed. Then he gave the Pecan a magical bag of holding instead of a magazine. The Warlord got a magical shield of protection. By the 5th night, he was working on his masterpiece, Mr. Pussyhead Global Events Modifiers. Then on the 6th night, he was dancing around in the moonlight, in his wizard robe when he decided that this was all too much fucking hard work and just went on the internet and started copying over files from World of Warcraft Wrath of the Lich King. The rest, as they say, is history. And whilst this all happens, the devil quietly chuckled to himself, because the devil doesn't like to be tricked, and the only thing the devil likes more than revenge is self-inflicted revenge. The moral of the story is this. Nobody gives a flying fuck that the back end of this game is a pretty standard MMO, heavily influenced by traditional spellcasting based games. Not even me. As long as this is hidden from view, goes on in the background, and all we see is guns, turrets and explosions. Once you take off that talisman of deception and start taking massive World of Warcraft shits right at the centre of the stage, then to coin a phrase, the spell is broken and you lose your audience. It's like that bit in the movie Dusk Till Dawn, where it suddenly flips from being a serious heavyweight thriller and becomes a B-movie comedy horror. I'm not saying it's a bad film, but let's not fuck around. At that moment when the spell was broken, half the audience got up and left. I guess the point is this. Nobody minds if you're a wizard, but you have to keep your fucking wand in your pants. A good job has been done tricking us into thinking we're playing a cover-based shooter and disguising the MMO at the heart of this game. You have, thus far, got away with it very successfully. But don't push your fucking luck, and don't take the fucking piss. This is a fantastic game, but anything introduced has to be consistent with the game lore. Or at the very least, seamlessly added to it. If you resort to parachuting in World of Warcraft raid mechanics into the fucking Division, it's going to make a fool out of the developers, a joke out of the Division, and fucking laughingstock out of Ubisoft. The Division is the Division. People need to stop trying to turn it into World of fucking Warcraft, either through laziness or hubris. Here endeth the sermon, motherfuckers. Well, this about wraps it up for today, folks. Sadly, as it's so close to midnight, there is no point in me doing a vendor reset, only to show you the weapons you should have fucking bought had I got my shit together earlier. I do, however, have a quick update on little Scruffy. Today I had a surprise phone call from the vets that take care of little Scruffy. I have verified that Scruffy is indeed a real fucking cat, and not some fictional cat invented solely for an advertising campaign. Even more importantly, I established he is safe and well, and arranged payment for his sponsorship on the condition that Hamish's bolt-action rifle is introduced in patch 1.7. Between you and me though, I'm pretty sure he's fucked. I can say for the record right now, it was absolutely fucking surreal having a 15-minute grown-up conversation with someone who repeatedly kept politely referring to me as Mr. Kiloton. Whilst we're touching on the subject of the rifle, I would like to thank everyone on Reddit for their spectacular response to the thread about Hamish's exotic bolt-action sniper rifle. The suggestions were literally brilliant. I was humbled by both the ingenious nature and comedy value of the responses. I salute you all. Oh, and I have been roundly bollocked by someone for falling behind with the state of the game. So in order to catch up, here is a recap of yesterday's, where I will comprehensively cover the new Commendation systems being introduced in 1.7 and give you all the information you need. Well, why fucking lie about it? Oh yeah, and hire a couple of servers for the Australian and New Zealand players, please. It's not that expensive. Last thing, Ali from the Division UK is doing a 24-hour stream right fucking now, literally tonight. He's doing it for Macmillan, the cancer support charity. Please go show some support to the guy. Donate your weekly crack allowance and help a good cause. Good luck to him and his clan. Check it out, even if you only go over there to watch 5-10 minutes of the stream. I'm sure he would really appreciate it. I've linked all of their details down below in the description. Good luck and happy hunting.